Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Brass Ass YouTube podcast, the show where we dig into the real stories, strategies, and secrets, behind the hockey development and recruiting. I am your host, Suke Sace, and today, today's episode is a big one because we're going to be tackling a topic that countless Canadian families talk about, dream about, and if we're really being honest, sometimes even lose sleep over. And that is the road to the U.S. NCAA scholarship for both male and female players. If you've been following college hockey, folks, over the past year, you know the landscape is shifting fast. Rules are changing, opportunities are expanding, and what used to be a straightforward path is now a lot more flexible and a lot more confusing. I'm going to guide you through everything that you need to know, and that is how the male and female, the paths, they differ, and the latest NCAA rule changes that affect eligibility and scholarships. And in NCAA, folks, what coaches are really looking for. And by the end of this episode, you'll have I'm telling you, a clear roadmap. Whether you're a player chasing the dream or a player trying to help your child navigate it. Why NCAA hockey matters more than ever, folks. Let's remind ourselves why this goal is worth chasing. For Canadian players, the NCAA, folks, represents a unique combination of elite hockey and elite education. On the men's side, Division I hockey, well, it's a proven pipeline to the NHL, right? Over 30% of the NHL hockey players, folks, today once skated in the NCAA. Players like Cal McCarr, Rod Brindamore, and Brett Hall, they all went the college route. And on the women's side, well, I'll tell you something, it's even more crucial. NCAA Division I is the number one development path, folks, to Team Canada, Team USA, and the professional women's leagues like the PWHL. Take Erin Ambrose, right? Now starring for the PWHL Montreal, right? She played at Clarkston, or Jess Healy with the PWHL Boston. Well, she developed at the University of Minnesota Duluth. You look at Team Canada's roster, folks, almost every single player came through NCAA programs. A top U.S. school can cost $60,000 to $80,000 U.S. per year. NCAA scholarship, folks, whether full or partial, can cover a massive portion of that. But the real prize isn't just the financial help, folks. It's the combination of ice time, world-class coaching, exposure to the scouts, and a degree that sets you up for life after hockey. And that brings us now to the rule changes every Canadian needs to know. The NCAA has rolled out some of the most significant reforms in decades. And if you're not up to speed, you can miss your window of opportunity. Number one, CHL, Canadian Hockey League players, are now eligible for NCAA. Because starting back August the 1st, 2025, CHL players, right? That means OHL players, Western Hockey League players, and Quebec Major Junior Hockey League players can now keep NCAA eligibility as long as they're only reimbursed for, let's say, expenses and not receiving pro level pay. This rule change opens the door that was locked for generations. And number two, pre-enrollment flexibility. Well, this is a big one, right? Prospects now can skate with the Canadian Hockey League, CHL, or even pro teams before enrolling to college, as long as they're not paid beyond expenses. That means more development without killing the eligibility. And number three, well, goodbye National League letter of intent, right? The national letter of intent, well, where you sign a binding agreement, well, is gone, right? It's now replaced with a simpler athletic aid agreement. You know, same commitment, but with more freedom if things change. And number 4 on the list here, folks, scholarship caps are gone and roster limits are in, right? And now look at, this is huge, right? Schools that opt in will no longer be handcuffed by, let's say, strict scholarship caps, right? Instead, they'll use roster limits. And coaches have more flexibility to, let's say, divide up, scholarship dollars across more players. And that translation, folks, equals, more opportunities, for Canadians, but almost more complexity, right? What I mean is the old, let's say, safe path and risky path labels don't apply the way they used to. So this brings us to this part here, folks. The male pathway, where, let's say, tradition meets change. Traditionally, Canadian boys chasing NCAA hockey avoided the Canadian Hockey League, the CHL. Well, they went on to play Junior A, Tier 2 hockey in Canada, in, let's say, the BCHL, the Alberta Junior Hockey League, Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League, or the OJ and the Ontario Junior Hockey League, or they crossed, south, right, to the USHL. When the boys, when they were 14 to 16 years old, they played, AAA or prep hockey. And by the time they hit 16 and 18, they broke into the Junior A or the USHL. And at 17 to 20 years of age, they get recruited and commit. We got to remember, folks, most players enter college at the age of 19 or 20 or older, right? And more physically developed. They're not 16 to 17 years old. You get these players that go through Tier 2 hockey at 19, 20. They're more mature, right? More smarter, more stronger. But guess what? That path is still alive as well. But now, with the CHL, players keeping eligibility, the boys, they can play at the highest junior levels, folks, in Canada, and still keep the NCAA as an option. But here's the catch. Your academics, that's the catch, folks. The NCAA, folks, requires 16 core courses. And many CHL players never track those because they assume college wasn't even an option. Now, if you're in that boat, you'll need to catch up on your academics, folks, to qualify. Now it's time to talk about, the female pathway. You know what? That pathway, folks, for the female players, it's early and intense. Because for girls, the story's a little different. In some ways, a lot tougher. Because most top Canadian female players, folks, they go straight from the high level under 18 AAA, right? Or prep school, right into NCAA programs. There's no CHL style conflict. So NCAA is the target, if you want national team or pro ambitions in the female game. Recruiting starts early in the female game because coaches can contact players as early as June the 15th, right? And after grade 10. And by the time you hit grade 11, many top programs have already, filled their roster, right? And that means if you're a 15-year-old player in Ontario, there's a good chance that a coach, at Boston College or Wisconsin may already have you on their radar. With new scholarship flexibility, folks, more players can get aid. But you know what? The early exposure in female hockey is still the name of the game. Because you know what, and we got to be part of, folks, whatever organization, the team, you got to be part of showcases, national tournaments, and prep school games. They remain critical for those scouting grounds. I'm telling you, that's where these scouts go. They don't go to these little Mickey Mouse tournaments. Here's the recruiting checklist. Number 1, skating. Speed and edge work, folks. College is a blistery fast sport. I'm telling you, in the game of hockey, it's fast out there. And huge on the list, folks, hockey IQ. You know what? Anticipation, smart decision, and reading plays. Compete level. Relentless effort on every single shift. Character. Coaches recruit people, not just players. They want leaders in the NCAA. And your academics. If you can't get admitted, you can't play. Let's put it that way. So you got to pull up your socks with your education. One NCAA coach once told me, right, just recently, I could teach a player systems, but I can't teach them to love the game or to show up every day with character. So you know what? You need your highlight reels, right? And your highlight reels should reflect this. And not just the goals. Show hustle, show back checking and show responsibility. Exposures, I'll tell you why, folks, turns dreams into offers. For boys, folks, the BCHL, the showcase, and the World Junior A Challenge, and the USHL Combines. I'm telling you, they're out there, these big showcases for these tournaments. And for the girls, the USA Canada Cup. And you got the PWHL playoffs. And you know what? What's huge is ID camps. Yes, you know what? Players and parents, college ID camps are gold, right? I'll tell you why. They let coaches evaluate you up close and see how you respond to feedback. And yes, you still need that highlight video, right? But you know what? A tip for you. Keep it under 5 minutes. Focus on speed, decision making, and compete level. And you know what? Save the dramatic music for TikTok and Instagram. So let's simplify this in a roadmap, right? For male players, what you got to do, you got to stay on top of your academics starting in grade 9. If you're in the CHL, make sure your competition stays NCAA legal, right? Junior A and USHL are still, tried and true. Trust me, they are. Expect to start college at the age 19 or 20. And for the female players, folks, be ready by grade 9. Play at the highest level you can, and get seen at the showcases by grade 10. And you know what? Expect serious recruiting conversations by the summer of grade 10. And for everyone, keep communication open with coaches, folks. Ask how schools are using their rosters, their rules, right? Always have a backup plan as well, like the U Sports, D3, or another program. And my final thoughts on this big, huge topic, folks. The road to the NCAA scholarship in 2025 and beyond has never offered more opportunity and for more, uncertainty, right? The CHL door is open, scholarship caps are gone, recruiting rules are shifting, but the truth hasn't changed. Success still comes down to preparation, character, and performance. So that to every Canadian player listening right now, control what you can control. Work on your skating and hockey IQ, your hockey sense. Keep your grades up. Stay patient, because the ones who are both talented and prepared are the ones who adapt to this new landscape, are the ones who will seize these opportunities. Folks, that's it for today. Yes, I am your host, Suitcase Ace. You have just listened to the Brass Ass YouTube podcast.